the book Penetration by Ingo Swann. We'll do a little background on Ingo Swann so you guys can know who he is. This is a picture of him here. There he is. So that's Ingo Swann. Obviously, in his later years, he passed away in 2013, where he would draw some of the stuff he'd see up above him. So if you are familiar with remote viewing, listen, if you in the UFO topic today and all of that, remote viewing's all over it. Well, he was a guy back in the day that coined the phrase. He had these weird abilities, picked up by different people, ended up at SRI, and we'll cover some of that a little bit. The Stanford Research Institute with Hal Puthoff did some crazy stuff. And we'll get into all of it. CIA, it's insane. Some of it's verifiable, and then if you believe that, then I guess you kind of at least got to go down the path of everything he says, which is fantastic. So, yeah, the book is Penetration, and that's an image of that. The one I read today had, read the other day, had chapter 9, or what he calls 9, which is the special edition that's got some notes he found about a remote viewing that he did on Mars. But his stuff around the moon is just absolutely, it's fantastical. How he was brought in by a guy named Axelrod. Okay. So this guy was in a place, Stanford Research Institute, with some other people, and they were trying to understand what the human psyche could really do. They'd like to see things in the next room, or they'd do tests, and they'd find people that would score well in different things in Army or whoever what. And they'd bring them in there, and they'd try to science the heck out of this and try to figure out if there's any advantage or anything that we can do. And he was getting really, really bored with it. So he says, why don't we see if we can do something really, really crazy? So he started thinking about things like coordinates. I want to see a long ways away. I want to see what something's like in another city. I think what they first started doing was weather in a different city. And then he called that remote viewing. It's not right here, it's right there. And then from there you could go anywhere. Jupiter, the moon, all sorts of stuff. And it started at least getting some attention. The story of how he brings Axelrod, it's almost deep throat, comes out at him and starts saying, hey, we want you to look at some stuff. And one of the things they ask him to look at is the moon. And the stuff he sees there is what's insane. And then he starts talking about telepathy and consciousness and the ability to do all of that. Now, he's known as remote viewing. We know him from remote viewing. He's kind of known, maybe he's a con man, all sorts of things. But in this book, he's very little of that side of him. He's a reporter trying to talk about the things that are on the moon are not what they say. And what NASA's doing, he thinks they went, and they're just hiding a lot of what they saw. Thinks they very well made contact. And from there, the whole gang's been crazy ever since. He meets an alien in a supermarket, all sorts of stuff. So, first of all, this Axelrod also brings him out to where a real UFO comes over the top of a lake, sucks water up out of the lake, and takes off. They almost get caught. I want to go into that too. But first, let's just do a little thing on him. Let's just watch this whole thing and see if there's some background.
Psychic Ingo Swann. The concept of remote viewing is often dismissed as a pseudoscience, but public ridicule didn't seem to be a deterrent for the infamous three-letter agency or the Stanford Research Institute, when in the early 1970s they invited a man by the name of Ingo Swann to partake in a special project regarding the realistic potential applications for military and intelligence purposes of the previously mentioned psychic ability. Swann worked closely with physicists Russell Targ and Harold E. Puthoff, who were leading the remote viewing research efforts at SRI. Together, they developed and refined the protocols and methodologies for conducting remote viewing experiments. Swann's natural talent and success in remote viewing played a crucial role in shaping these protocols. In one of his remote viewing sessions at SRI, Swann was tasked with describing a secret research facility in the Soviet Union that was not publicly known at the time. He provided detailed information about the facility's function, layout, and the presence of certain types of equipment. Intelligence efforts, including satellite imagery and other sources, later confirmed the existence of the facility, and the details Swann provided aligned with the actual characteristics of the.
Yeah, that's an example of some of the verifiable stuff.
And the details Swann provided align with the actual characteristics of the site. Ingo Swann was one of the key individuals involved in the US government's remote viewing program known as Project Stargate. Under this program, Swann and other remote viewers were tasked with various intelligence-related missions, including locating missing persons, gathering information on enemy activities, and assessing the potential of remote viewing for military and intelligence purposes. But Ingo's reach wasn't restricted to planet Earth. In fact, he revealed information on the Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, and others that was later verified. In a remote viewing session at SRI, Swann was asked to describe a target on the Moon's far side, which was not visible from Earth. Swann's description of the target included details about a specific crater, including its size, shape, and the presence of a prominent central peak. Subsequent exploration of the Moon by NASA's Apollo
It was a lot more than that.
missions confirmed the accuracy of Swann's descriptions. The crater he had described matched a real feature on the Moon's surface.
Oh, man.
In another remote viewing session conducted at the same place, Ingo was tasked with describing the planet Mercury. He provided detailed information about Mercury's atmosphere, which was not confirmed by conventional scientific knowledge at the time. But his description of a thin, wispy atmosphere was later confirmed by NASA's Mariner 10 mission, which visited Mercury in 1974 and provided data supporting his remote viewing impressions. In the early 1970s, during one of his first sessions, Swann was asked to describe the planet Jupiter. His remote viewing session yielded information about Jupiter's unique features, including the presence of a ring system. Now, as we all know, Jupiter doesn't have any rings, so maybe he just mistook Jupiter for Saturn? No, because several years later, in 1979, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft captured images and data that confirmed the existence of Jupiter's ring system. This confirmation was seen as a remarkable validation of Swann's remote viewing abilities, as he had described the rings before their existence was officially recognized in the scientific community. He went on to provide more details about the planet in question. However, those are not publicly accessible due to the classified nature of the research. Now, it has to be said that Ingo Swann wasn't always accurate in his remote viewing descriptions, but what I personally find mind-blowing is the fact that he's been able to predict several times the exact location, shape, and features of objects and events that are just impossible to assess without the help of advanced technology. It's certainly interesting that people would so quickly call individuals like Ingo a fraud, without even looking at the data. This is yet another reason why one must go through life with an open mind and remember that just because current science cannot explain it, it does not mean it's not real.
one must go through life with an open mind, and if current times aren't don't show you that everybody's got to take that responsibility individually, because there ain't nobody looking out for you. There ain't nobody looking out for you. In fact, it might be just the opposite. Just like he said. All right, so this guy has this ability, shows this ability, can draw things, remote view them. He remote views the moon. He sees bases. He sees huge structures, like mechanical structures. Here, let's let Jesse Michels tell you the story. He's going to do it a whole heck of a lot better than I am.
And then there's the moon.
And then the moon's weird too.
The moon's really weird.
The moon's super weird.
The size of the moon directly corresponding, like when it's in orbit with the sun, completely blocks out the sun perfectly.
It's 1/400th the size of the sun, and it's 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun. You never see the dark side, which is very weird. It's actually, I believe it's closer to the Earth than what you would normally expect for a moon.
And it's huge.
It's huge. You have cultures actually talking about a pre-moon period, and it's stabilizing the climate. You have the Zulu cultures talking about this. And then here's the weirdest stuff about the moon. Apollo 11, I believe, when the booster took off on the moon, they were like, we think it might be hollow, and it's, it seems like actually the outer layer of the moon is less dense, is more dense than lower layers, which pattern matches only to an excavation site. That's obviously, in Earth, the lower you go, it's more dense, right? And so Apollo 12, they intentionally crashed the booster of the lunar vehicle onto the moon. They put seismometers there, and they said that it rang like a bell.
It rang like a bell for like an hour. That thing is 25% the size of the Earth. It's less dense. It never shows you the other side. It always has a hidden side, just like he said. It's too perfect. It's too weird, and it's exactly where you would go and be. It's so big, there could be hundreds of thousands to millions of people, of things, entities, people, right? People.
This is all fact. You could look all this stuff. It's super weird.
It is really weird. I know you did an episode about that with Randall Carlson.
Love Randall Carlson.
Yeah. He's got some wild fucking theories too. But the idea that the moon was somehow another place there to stabilize our atmosphere is so crazy.
It is crazy. And then you obviously have to sort of think in probabilities all the way down. Lowest probability, craziest thing is Ingo Swann, who is another remote viewer in the Stargate program. He wrote a book called Penetration, where he's basically like abducted by this guy in a suit, like this kind of Men in Black style guy named Axelrod, and he is told to remote view the moon, and he remote views an alien base on the moon. And he says that he gets it. The whole thing goes crazy. I mean, the book is insane. It's like he then ends up in a supermarket, and he says that he senses that this woman at the produce aisle is like an alien or something. But a lot of people from that Stargate program remote viewed, structures on the dark side of the moon and that sort of thing. So,
well, but AJ from the Y-Files was on, and he was the one that was telling us that there's photos, right, of the dark side of the moon, that someone had seen photos and was assuming that these would be released shortly, that there were structures. Wow, this is going to be the biggest news ever, and then it was never released.
Are you talking about maybe Karl Wolf?
Is that what it was?
Who was taken to, this is all his claims, and he died in a freakish bike accident a little after saying this. But he said that there was like in like Langley, Virginia, where a lot of spooky stuff goes on. He was taken to some it was like inside a mountain complex, which we definitely, Karl Wolf, yeah.
That guy bikes?
Apparently not enough.
Oh, yeah. That guy could die any time.
Oh, man.
On a scooter. So photographs of the 1966 lunar orbiter mission that revealed large base of the moon. Can we hear what he's saying?
It's a 4-minute video. I don't know.
Just hear a little bit of it.
Scan one section of the moon, then another and another, and then they would get a larger image. So this mosaic then would be put in that contact printer, and that was then a print that was issued to whomever, the press, the scientist, whatever, wherever that was intended to go. So he was showing me how all this worked, and we walked over to one side of the lab, and he said, by the way, we've discovered a base on the back side of the moon. And I said, whose?
By the way.
What do you mean, whose? He said, yes, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And at that point, I became frightened, and I was a little terrified, thinking to myself that if anybody walks in the room now, I know we're in jeopardy, we're in trouble, because he shouldn't be giving me this information. I was fascinated by it, but I also knew that he was overstepping a boundary that he shouldn't be stepping over. And then he pulled out one of these mosaics and showed this base, which had geometric shapes. There were towers, there were spherical buildings. There were very tall towers and things that looked somewhat like radar dishes, but they were large structures.
Yeah, so in his book he talks about like the big golf ball that were up on a tee, and they were huge.
So I didn't say any more to him because I was concerned again that somebody was going to come in at any moment, would catch us having this conversation, and we would be in real trouble. I realized that he was telling me this information because he didn't have anybody else to talk to. Now, probably in that laboratory, he was probably one of the few enlisted people, and he was a worker bee. And he had a high-level security clearance, obviously, but he couldn't share that information with anybody else. And in those days, we didn't. When you had your security clearance, you took it seriously. It isn't like today where people don't take these things seriously. We had a different set of morals and ethics and values. That's the way we were raised, and we stayed bound by those agreements. So it was rare that someone would do something like this, but this fellow and I were the same rank. I think he was very distressed. He had the same pallor and demeanor as the scientists outside the room. They were just as concerned as he was, and he needed to discuss it with somebody. So that was the end of it right there. I didn't take it any further than that. I just filed it away. But the interesting thing, every day that I went home, I would think to myself, I can't wait to hear about this on the news, And, so I'd turn on the TV and I'd look at the news to see if they're going to announce, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon, being really naive, And, of course, here it is 30-some years later, and we still haven't heard about it.
Whoa.
So, yeah, that guy died in a freak bike accident. I've done the missing scientist ones. Bike accidents, bus accidents, missing. His description of what the picture showed and Ingo Swann's writing, artwork, description of what he remote viewed there are almost identical. And he did it way before. When you read this book, he talks all about consciousness. He talks a lot about consciousness is not inside yourself. Consciousness is something here, and we're a piece of it, or we're a piece of it. We're having an experience for consciousness. And if you were up there a lot or had a higher, broader version of that, which he thinks maybe these extraterrestrials that are, when he was there, he's seeing the edge of a crater, he's seeing all these crazy things, he's seeing human-like beings doing work, like mining or doing something. But as he saw them, they noticed him. It was like the entity, the thing there went, oh, you're in our space. What is that? How is that thing noticing us? A lot like these plasma balls and UFOs and things like that do as well. Once you notice them, they seem to notice you. Like, did he see us? Or they can hear that, sense that. You're now in their space, and so they're like, that's odd. It scared him. And if you have that ability, what he calls telepathy plus, then you could do whatever you wanted, to be honest with you. You'd be so intellectually superior that it'd be like, an ant versus us. And when an ant's looking, if it even can look up, there's no way it's perceiving us the same way that we are. And we now know that no matter what, that ant has, it has no ability to understand what we are. So like that. So, it started down this road for him of all sorts of stuff. Anyway, they take that information, they do what they want with it. That's a crazy story that you heard right there. One of the other things he talks about in the book is this Axelrod character. They don't name who he is, but boy, do I think, I don't know. When he describes him, he uses the word jolly to describe him at least 4 different times in this book for no reason. He doesn't even say he's jolly. I mean, he says this jolly man, or straight out of Jolly's words himself, right out of Mr. Jolly himself. And then he goes with a stoic face. Like, wait a minute, those don't match. CIA, MK Ultra, the guy that was all over that is Jolly West. And look it up if you need to. It'd be a whole entire podcast just on that. From Charles Manson, Haight-Ashbury, the moon landing, on the set of 2001: A Space Odyssey, Kubrick. He's the guy that was in the jail cell of Jack Ruby right before and right after, I believe this is true, he shot Lee Harvey Oswald and went insane right afterwards. If they have the ability to understand how the human mind works, which they do, and then they've got the entire population to find the people that are very susceptible to it, no way, man. Sirhan with Robert Kennedy, to this day, has no idea what happened. He killed him, but he has no idea. Jolly West. The guy put so much LSD in an elephant, I think in St. Louis, that it killed him. That's true. These are documented things. Found out in the 90s, I think. So, Mr. Axelrod, jolly Mr. Axelrod, I just thought that was very, very interesting. Man, at Haight-Ashbury, they put the clinic right in the middle, so they'd be right in the middle of it, and then it brought them in. Boy, they were really, really, really good at that stuff. So they would have been extremely interested in anybody that could do anything. One day he calls him out. He says, "Do you want to see a UFO?" The book obviously goes into more detail about how he does that coolly. In a real way. And sure. So they get on a plane out of San Francisco. They go north. They're in the middle of nowhere. They hike up forever. And they get down some bushes. There's these 2 twins. There's this Axelrod and there's him. And they said, "I hope it comes tonight." And then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, it's going to be here." And they're down low. And this thing, according to him, starts kind of small and then just appears and gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's this huge triangle. And for him to say the word triangle back in this is 1998 when he was writing this, he's talking about cigar-shaped things on the moon. He's talking about triangulation or triangle crafts that are all sorts of different sizes, exactly what we're hearing today. This is before the Go Fast videos or any of that stuff. He was writing this stuff with no confirmation and putting it in a book, for God's sakes, that he probably thought nobody would read, then goes off and dies a little bit later when he rethought about what this happened after he was done with his career. That's why it's such a fantastic book, because it was written after he remembered these things happened. How he was brought into this organization from this Axelrod in a very weird way, very clandestine way. Anyway, this thing appears, widens, goes over the top of this lake, and just starts sucking up water. I mean, a ton of it. You think about what we might be, what the Earth might be. Water, biosphere. It might be one of the most valuable things ever. And we're just kind of maintaining it, or it maintains itself with us in it. Who knows? Then all of a sudden, somebody made a move, and the thing reacted. He goes, "Oh no, it sees us." Or one of the guys that was there with him did. And lasers come out of there and start shooting crap around it, and it's hitting pine cones. And I think it took out a couple deer or something like that was there. And they run away, or they get away, and everything's safe. Again, it's the book. It's Ingo Swann. Take it or leave it. And I just had this thought. Well, so it's an autonomous thing. It's just like the Travis Walton story. You know, they run across that thing in the 70s, same time frame. It's out in the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere. The 4 lumber guys run into it, lumberjacks, or whatever they were. Travis Walton, gets out of the truck and starts walking towards it. The other 3 want to leave. And all of a sudden, zap, it just nails him and pulls him in and whatever. They take off. It sucks him into the UFO. And then these were like, you got the impression the original ones were like drones. Like they weren't really very smart. They were doing a task and they accidentally shot him. Or maybe like the automation of the system automatically is going to do that. It's not going to let things be seen. So when things are close, if it senses heat, heartbeat, what is other animals, it just takes them out. When they realized it was a human, they wanted to stop it because that causes too much attention, I think. And then there were different beings there. They were tall, white, which you see is the Nordic type, one of the 4. And they put him back together, he says, and then he just was at a mini mart a week later. They were looking for him. The police were out there, his friends. This is a true story, as you all probably know. It lines right up with that. It's the exact same thing of how that thing would be automated, and it was shooting at those deer. So then I thought about they have mutilation of a bunch of cattle in the middle of Montana or something. They're cut right in half, or right through the shoulder, right across the body. It's like, what the heck? That's what would happen. If they were at a big lake, or if they were coming to get something from, I think the Walton might have been gathering stuff off the ground, hay or something like that. They're gathering something for some reason, and then they happen to be landed a body of water with a bunch of cows around the edge, and it just lasers them, not knowing. It just doesn't want anything around there to, I guess, live, and then it takes the heck off. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, so he interviews the Axelrod says, okay, this freaks Ingo Swann out. He has no idea what's coming. He is freaking the heck out. I think he throws up. Oh, yeah, he does. He throws up once on this rock. He lights a cigar because he just can't handle it. And I think they asked him, "So did you get any sense when you did your remote viewing?" And he goes, "Are you effing kidding me? I wasn't thinking about that at all." He goes, "Yeah, but if you were, what did you sense?" And I think that's what he said, is that they were on a mission, on a task, and that's what it was. And it was an autonomous thing. Oh, and he says if they can come through and grow like that, then their version of space and time is not like our version of space and time, and that's a given. I think that's the whole thing. Listening to American Alchemy, Jesse Michaels today, and David Hoffman, that's exactly what he believes. We have a 3D space-time construct. If you have a different one, our space and time and your position, imagine it would just appear differently to us, as we all know, based on that. Not just different dimensions, a different space-time construct. So here's I'm going to switch to this one. So I think this is him. It's a short. This is him when they ask him about seeing a UFO, and what Axelrod did. And let's watch this.
Axelrod, would you like to see a UFO, Ingo? I said, oh yeah. Now, I hadn't expected to see anything like that anywhere at any time. Sat on a rock, threw up a couple times, and pulled out a cigar. Axelrod.
So that was him telling that story about Axelrod. Jolly old Axelrod. Seeing a UFO. Remote viewing stuff that the CIA paid for. Companies paid for. We made an entire career on it. Some of it actionable. Writing books years later about a moon experience, telling all of us consciousness is not what you think at all. Telepathy's super real, and we are barely touching it, and all of us have that ability. Penetration. It's a great read. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I want to go through my phone here real quick and make sure there's nothing on this book. So I got penetration right here. And well, here, you know what we should do? We should listen to just the introduction. This is this would be the preface of penetration. We'll listen to this, and then we'll make sure we don't miss anything, and then we'll go.
This book is dedicated to Mr. Axelrod, wherever and whoever he is. This small book is divided into 3 parts, and it is with regard to the first part that I join a very long list of those who have seen and experienced things they cannot prove happened. The second part is on much firmer ground. It is largely a brief synopsis of spectacular data and facts about the moon that have achieved exposure elsewhere, and which provide evidence that the moon is a very interesting place indeed.
The moon is a very interesting place indeed. Go listen to that book, what he says about the moon. Man, if there's even a piece of it, I think that, I think a lot of it's true. I think we should be open to all of it. I think if you had information, it's the last thing you would share. There's a reason that they speak Portuguese in Brazil, because they were from Portugal. But you look where Portugal is into Europe, you look where Brazil is, jumping out there in that right side or the west side of South America. Well, Portugal figured out, or somehow accidentally went so far west that they hit that point of Brazil, and from there they started going south, and they could slingshot around the Horn of Africa, get over to India, get those spices, and then I don't know how they made it back. And then all of a sudden they had a product that nobody had. And no areas, when they tried to do it, they kept crashing in, I think, but being sucked in and crashing into Africa, couldn't get around the Horn. So they kept that secret for over 200 years. They had to go at night and do all sorts of stuff. It was the most valuable secret in the world, and they became a massively rich country. Once that secret was found out, Spain, France, England, they were bigger, they were stronger, they were better. That secret now is worth nothing. And the country went into obscurity, and the only country, or at least one of the only countries I'm sure in South America that speak Portuguese, is Brazil, only because of that. They didn't do anything else. They didn't have any other dominance. That was their secret. That gave them that power. You'd never give it up. You'd never, never, never give it up. So keep your eyes open to stuff out there. Keep that intuition going, I want to thank my friend Aaron, who sent me that book. He does a lot of the consciousness side. He's really, he's fantastic. So he was brought into that from a totally different side. And he goes, hey, I'm reading this book called Penetration by Ingo Swann. And I went, Ingo Swann? SRI? Hal Puthoff? Remote viewing? McMonagall? Aliens? And he's like, I don't know about all that, but he does really good thing with consciousness and telepathy, intuition. He did all this before the telepathy tapes. If Ingo Swann were today and be on the internet, when he talked about the internet, it was nothing. It was script. And he saw evidence of the stuff he's talking about, he would go, yeah, that, and that, and that. So the momentum really is going. The internet has broke that, and it's fantastic. But this book that's 30 years old from Ingo Swann, to know that he wasn't just a guy that did this remote viewing and had this he wasn't a one-trick pony. He did a lot. And it was a great read. It was a lot of fun. So that's my Wednesday. Moons, consciousness, telepathy, aliens. You know, usual Wednesday. All right. See y'all.